Atheists don't like our happiness. They don't want you to be happy. They want you to be miserable. They're miserable, so they want you to be miserable.
Not believing in God was such a sea change of worldview that it changed my life fundamentally and forever.
This idea that some people have that atheists must be nihilists who have no purpose and are all dour all the time, and oh, this life has no meaning and purpose, and why don't we just end it all? I cannot grasp that.
The more I've understood about how the universe works, the more that awe has come and the more joy, rather than it going, oh, it's just clockwork. The sun's there and we go around it every year and all that stuff. No, I think that's amazing. How that is extraordinary how that's happened.
Since we can contemplate ourselves and we are made of the stuff of the cosmos, by transitive properties, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself.
I certainly feel more liberated. That's amazing.
I don't need spiritualism or God or anything to explain that. I'm just like, wow, what a great place we live in.
You make the standards, that you create the goals, that you decide what is meaningful or not. Once you get that, it's enormously freeing.
As the cobblers used to say, work while you have light. So while you're here, while you have your 300 months, you must put all your energy into it.
Atheists are great people. Great people.
It's God's country. Get those signs down. Get them down. Evil will happen in Corpus Christi. Get them down.
And welcome to Atheist Airwaves, episode number 91. I'm Christian Ferris.
I'm Reb Spence.
And I'm Amanda Stevens.
We usually record live every Tuesday at 7:30 Central, so you can usually listen in and participate in the chat room. But today is Sunday, and we're recording today because we have a special guest in town. Our intro audio this week for you people in the chat room was the trailer from the newly released film A Better Life, an exploration of joy and meaning in a world without God. And for those of you listening not live, it's remarks made this morning at church by our special guest, live in the luxurious Atheist Airwaves studio, director of the film and creator of the A Better Life book, Chris Johnson. Thanks for coming in and hanging with us, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
So Chris is a New York-based photographer and filmmaker. He received his undergraduate degree in film production with a minor in religious studies, interestingly enough. He's from Concordia University in Montreal, Quebec. Chris is also the recipient of the Kodak Award for Excellence in Filmmaking, as well as the B.F. Lorenzetti Scholarship for Excellence in Filmmaking. I think before we talk about anything else, we have to talk about your sermon this morning, which that experience was kind of mixed for me.
It's one of the best sermons I've ever heard.
In a church, yeah. So Chris gave in fact, in the little, what do they call those? What do they call those?
Program?
Program in churches? Okay. It was listed as the sermon for the day. That's a first for you, right?
I had no idea it was going to be the sermon.
Yeah.
Until I got there. So it was fun though.
Yeah, well, and they put you up on the stage, like on the stage, altar, I guess, is what it is. It's a Unitarian church, but it's still, there was a lot of God stuff in there. But you on a throne up there, and I'm like, that seems really awkward.
I was on a throne. I was sitting on a throne,
It's a pretty sweet chair.
Yeah.
Jesus for the day.
So we took some pictures, so those will go up in the Atheist Airwaves Facebook page in no time, I'm sure. But you have to see that. So just talking about your remarks, I think absolutely you killed it. I mean, when I was going to get coffee afterwards, all I heard was, that's the best sermon we've ever had in this church. So literally the sermon you gave was the best sermon so the atheist gave the best
content presentation, the best I've seen in a church.
Thank you.
I was a little weirded out by the service. And the humanists here locally have been trying to make me go to their Unitarian services for a long time, and I thought there was going to be a lot less weirdness, but
I knew they had the lighting of the chalice or whatever, and I remember thinking like that's kind of, but whatever. I guess everyone's got a ritual or whatever, cool. But yeah, everything after that wasn't much better either.
Which it went out right before I spoke too. Which I don't know if that's telling or not.
Yeah, that was amazing. I loved that part. That was practically the best part. Is that the unholy atheist on their altar and just extinguished their light. But one of the things that they did during this service was they brought, before Chris spoke, they brought all the kids down to sit in front and read them a children's story, and it was basically a creationism story. I mean, it was a weird one where God is a woman and
no day setup. It was just like over time. She put in a dash of this and a dash of that.
But I felt like there was I don't know why they did it. There was like no purpose to it. No.
There was no overarching message or moral at the end of it. It's just, this happened.
It was weird. It was very weird.
Yeah. And they had wanted me to bring my family, and I did not. But it was at that point that I was like, I'm really glad, because I'm trying to put myself in this kid's shoes, and what are they getting out of this story? Because it's kind of presented in a story fashion. So half of the time I was like, okay, so maybe this would be okay because it's kind of
it's pretend,
right. But then it's got the altar and all the religious circumstance around it. I don't know what the heck they were doing.
It's like God created this world just for you.
Yeah.
With fire ants.
Yeah.
With a little dash of free will and little glow bugs and cancer. It's great.
You added the cancer part. That would have been far more entertaining. But then when you spoke, Chris, and he asked, how many people in this Unitarian congregation believe in God? And you probably had a better viewpoint of it. I mean, how did it break down? You said you asked them 3 questions: who believes in God, who doesn't, and who doesn't care. I think, right? What was your impression of the breakdown of the?
It seemed like 2/3 of the audience raised their hand at every question.
Really?
It was weird. But I think more people. It's hard to say, but I think more people did not believe in God than believed in God.
That's what
I was surprised at how many people raised their hands to that question. Yeah.
And based on some of my conversations with people afterwards, I think that a lot of them are in this kind of I don't care in the middle, I don't believe it, but whatever. So I can understand why they would, at least for 2 of those questions, they would probably raise their hand, I don't believe in God, and I also don't care.
And it was interesting doing the sermon too, because you see everybody out there and their responses as you're speaking, and a lot of people, nodding their heads and things like that. So it seemed like a very receptive audience, more so than I expected.
Yeah, I did love. There was the couple down front who I think did you ask who believes in God, and he was going, kind of, and his wife was like, what?
And I said, there's going to be a fight later.
Yeah, and boy. But
one of the weird things, though, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, is half this congregation is atheist, yet they have a very theist-centric message that they're giving to it. It seems like they should understand their audience a little bit better and maybe tailor their message to that audience that they have at their church,
or realize why why are people there.
Right.
It looks like obviously they're there for community, not for theology.
Right. And after it was great because Chris had a long line of people who wanted to talk to him afterwards. But I actually had a bunch of people come up to me afterwards just saying, I had no idea there was an atheist community in here. And it really felt like to me, they're like, we've been sitting in this God crap. And we just thought this was the community that we could have in Corpus Christi.
The little kid story, that's like every day.
It's weird. It's freaking me out. And I can't take it anymore. I'm so glad I ran into you.
Save me.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, and so first of all, I guess there are some people, even atheists, who like that church experience. That's not for me. But I mean, I get that. And I think, obviously there's a need for a community.
Well, that's one of those things you always see when, people are interviewing people that are kind of on the fence about it. It's like, well, if I leave, I won't have my church and community anymore.
Yeah.
And a lot of that structure goes along with it. It's something they're used to from childhood. And to lose that is losing a little bit of, who they are.
Yeah. Well, but I also think it's very telling that the best sermon that they've ever had at their church is the atheist guy who came in. And I think, ultimately, and then let's move on and talk about your project. But I think ultimately you really rode the line between those two groups in a way that I think they're not used to. Being respectful of people who do believe while being very open with what you believe. And I think that really hit the right note with that crowd.
Thanks. I think that's something that, I think groups like maybe the Unitarians think they can't have. I think they feel like, okay, we can't be too religious and we can't be too atheist, and so we're going to walk this very narrow path. And I think you can be a lot more assertive than that.
Yeah. And I think that, if you're, I liked what you said about being intellectually honest. You went out there in front of a group that contained religious people and said, you can talk about religion and the harm it causes and all of that, but if you're being intellectually honest, you also have to talk about the good parts, and you talked about that as well. And I think that's great. You don't have to bury anything, and I think people will still respond. I think people just want a community.
Right.
So I'm going to digress again. Before we even talk about your project, so what is your background? Did you have a religious upbringing? How did you come to atheism?
I had a very kind of non-religious upbringing. My father is a very liberal Christian, kind of similar to Unitarian Universalists. I think they picked the church they went to based on the music. So it's a very liberal theology, community oriented. But we celebrated Christmas growing up, and I kind of knew the stories, knew Christianity a little bit, but it was never something taught as fact. And we weren't really raised Christian. We were kind of raised in Seattle, raised very in a liberal environment. So I never had any kind of deconversion moment. I was trying to think, doing all these interviews about the book and about the film, trying to think, did I ever believe in God? And I can't really think of a time where I did. Honestly,
Interesting.
I never did. No.
I'm so jealous of that. I would really like just to know what that's even like. So, you're a person who wasn't raised religious. You never believed in God. Why has atheism become so important that you have embarked on this journey?
Well, I think because I never had a religious upbringing, I always found religion interesting because it was something that other people believed in that was very foreign to me and different. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I, ended up minoring in religion in college, which is also around the same time all the new atheist books came out. So End of Faith, Letter to a Christian Nation, God is Not Great, God Delusion, all that was around that time. And so thinking about religion, thinking about atheism, it just got me really interested in the subject.
Okay.
Anyway, you've been working on your project, A Better Life, the film and the book and the film for like 3 years now. How did you get started with all that? What put you on that path to do that?
I was on a road trip with my brother, and we went to White Sands National Monument in New Mexico, and just thinking about all these things about religion and being in a beautiful place, being in the natural world, and thinking about, without God, how does the world look? How does the world look that's different from religion? There's so many people out there who think that without God, you're missing something important. And yet, here I am in this beautiful place, experiencing these amazing feelings. And it's just as good, if not better, than a religious person would experience. And I really wanted to change the conversation we were having. Much of the conversation, especially with the new atheist, was talking about what we don't believe. And I wanted to talk about what we do believe. When there is no God, what's left? There is no God, now what? Is what I say about the film and the book. Because I don't even really talk about why there's not a God or anything. I start with the premise, okay, there's no God. Not going to talk about it, that's it. Now what? So
I'm hard pressed. I hear locally atheists in our group who, this subject comes up from time to time about, the awe and, just how much more valuable life is as an atheist than it was, when we were believers. And I've heard, well-known atheists say that sort of thing, but I don't know that anyone is working, like on books or movies from that perspective. Is there anyone else you think is in this space? that you can think of?
No, I can't think of anything. In fact, when I first had the idea, I thought somebody has to have already done this already. And I had dinner with the Atheist Community of Austin folks. And I said, has anybody done this thing before? And they said, no, we've never heard of it. And so that was like, okay, I have to do it now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and I've heard Matt Dillahunty actually specifically, I think when he was on our show, we were asking him, are you working on a book or anything? He said, it's hard to come up with something new. So, I mean, and I agree. I mean, a new angle that hasn't been taken already. So I think this is a really necessary and amazing one. And just based on the reaction from the audience this morning, I think, I hope a lot of them come to the film. Before we talk a little bit more about the film, though, I want to back up to the book, which, if you haven't seen it, what's your website again?
Theatheistbook.com.
Theatheistbook.com. It's a gorgeous book. I mean, and these are all your photographs, right? How did you are you trained as a photographer, or?
Yeah, I studied filmmaking in school, so there's a lot of parallels between filmmaking and photography. So I moved into that after graduating. But it's the first time I'd ever done a book. So, that was a huge challenge as well.
So I grabbed a few things that the subjects said or wrote in your book that I really liked or that kind of resonated with me. And I thought I'd read just some little blurbs so the audience gets an idea of the kinds of things that are in this book. And if you just want to react to each one, tell us what it meant to you, or if you thought they were totally crazy or whatever it was. So the first one was from the piece that Jamila Bay wrote. And she said, quote, "Each day I arise, I curse the alarm clock." And more than anything else in the book, this is the line that really connected most with me. Are you a morning person?
No, not at all.
Excellent. You guys?
I don't have a choice because I have to wake up at 4:30. So
yeah, but are you happy about it? That's what I want to know.
I used to not be, and now I'm just consented, I guess.
Everyone shun Reb.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Not one of us. That made me happy. It validated who I am as a person. Okay. You might have to help me on some of these names because I have no idea. Chantal P. Iacovone?
Chantal Iacovone.
Iacovone. Oh, man. See, that's where I was going. I was like, I bet it's the other way. All right. She's a small business owner from Kalispell, Montana. She wrote, "Many people think atheism means that we live in opposition to the worship of Yahweh or the God of Abraham. And as a consequence, they have it stuck in their heads that we don't value life or that death doesn't mean anything to us. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, it really is the complete opposite life because it is so fleeting and precious, means everything to us. Being a non-theist actually makes finding joy and purpose that much easier." How do you feel about what she wrote about that?
I mean, I think she's spot on with it. Also, just getting back to what Jamila wrote, I think one of the reasons that resonates with many people too is it's not kind of a saccharine sweet life is always amazing kind of thing. It's a very realistic approach, right? So waking up in the morning with the alarm clock is not always a fun thing,
right?
But that's life, right?
Yeah. I actually loved her whole thing because as she's describing her morning routine, it sounds chaotic. And it reminds me of my childhood. My home is not quite that chaotic. My kids are far more chill than I ever was. But it reminds me of my childhood. And I'm just like, I can relate to that so much. And yeah, I mean, those are moments that we tend to just gloss over and head to the next thing. But it was weird having nostalgia for that kind of family chaos.
Well, I guess it goes to show that no matter what faith or non-faith you have, everyone's just a normal person who has a regular life that they have to deal with.
Yeah. And I just loved a lot of the stories throughout the book that are just kind of about real life. So the other one that I just wanted to read just a little part of the poem printed in your book, Alchemy by Anita M. Barnard. Do you know her, or I'd never heard of this woman before?
She was recommended to me by the other poet.
Oh, okay. I know. All those poets know each other. But she wrote, "Our flesh is the flesh of the universe, stardust as good a soul as we will ever need." And I felt like that was such a more poetic take on, kind of a...
It sounds woo, but it's...
Well, I mean, it's kind of a take on the Carl Sagan thing, but she poeted it up. She did her poetry thing on it. It's like such a fresher take on it. So that's good.
Yeah, there was also in the movie, you have I don't know if it's the same lady, and she's talking about how, we are made of stardust and we can recognize our existence. So technically we are the universe recognizing its own existence. And
Cara Santa Maria.
Yeah.
Right. Who I love, but yeah, she was quoting Carl Sagan.
Oh, she
So,
was.
yeah.
I thought it was. I had never heard it before, and like it sounded woo, but I was like, oh, that's kind of cool though. And
it is very
relevant.
poetic, isn't it? I mean, there are ways to talk about these things which are real and also moving. You don't have to make stuff up.
I just want to know how you get this far, how you're on an atheist podcast and you've never heard that Carl Sagan quote.
Well, I've heard that we're all made of stardust, but then the second part of it where the universe recognizes itself through us.
Yeah.
I'd never heard the transitive property for that.
Yeah, the transitive part is, I think, hers. But,
Yeah, and that was the part that I found interesting. I had never thought of it in that way, and I thought it was very insightful. Yeah. So you interviewed a very diverse group of people for your project. I think most people will be able to identify in some way with at least one person in your book. You interviewed some big names in the atheist movement, and then just some average, everyday Joes as well. How did you find these people, and how did you make the decision, on which ones to choose to interview and photograph and include in the movie?
I wanted to have a diverse group of people. I didn't want it to be only the same names we've all heard again and again. But so I wanted to be diverse. I also wanted to have a wide variety of backgrounds and professions. So not just scientists, as much as we love to talk about how amazing science is, how we fucking love science. I don't want people to think, oh, I'm not a scientist, or I don't even know anything about science, so I can't be an atheist. I wanted artists and business people and all kinds of actors and musicians to be involved as well. So people we don't hear much from. Some people are people that I already knew in real life. Others I'd read their works or were recommended by others in the book. People would say, oh, do you have this person? Do you have that person? Oh, I know someone who'd be really great for this kind of thing. And so when I first started, I think I had probably a third of the people picked, and everybody else grew from, as I went along. Yeah, recommendations, things like that. Yeah.
So how many people in total did you interview?
100.
Oh, just straight 100, no
Straight
extras.
100.
Okay,
Right.
so you didn't have to throw anyone's
No,
interview out.
no one got
that was
thrown
just too weird. I can't include that.
I was going to say, having been involved in atheist communities for a long time, I was like, surely there's one person where you got there and, you had to fear for your safety and had to back out of the room.
They were like
But
a
no.
9/11 truther or something.
Yeah, exactly. None of that?
No.
Wow, you got solid recommendations back.
Well, you also want to, look at people before you go meet them.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Especially when you're traveling and it's costing you money to go talk to them. Yeah, you
Yeah.
probably don't want to show up and have it be the 9/11 truther person.
Right. Background checks to make sure they're not a sex offender.
That story will make more sense in a little bit when we explain that to you guys. You do not want to turn it off now. You want to hear about this story.
Were there any of them that the interviews that you felt were particularly memorable that really struck a chord with you?
Greta Christina's interview, except only afterwards. The interview itself was fine, was good, but what happened after that made it so much more poignant. She talks about it in the book, but I went to go meet with her, and we met in San Francisco, and we did the interview, we took pictures, her and her partner, and it was great. And then I left, and about a week later, I was reading her blog, and she had a blog post that said, last Saturday or whatever, I was diagnosed with cancer. And that was the day that I had met with her.
Wow.
And I got an email from her that said, sorry if I seemed a little weird. I got the call that I was diagnosed with cancer literally 30 seconds before you rang the doorbell.
Wow.
And then to have, me come in, take pictures,
Right.
talk about
What
life
makes you
and
happy?
death and
Yeah.
all that. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
She's fine, by the way. She's doing really well. But I mean, she talks about this in the book. Just how it really changed her perspective.
Yeah, I really liked reading that, and because I mean, just thinking about. Because I recently found out a loved one has cancer, and it totally wrecked me for like a while. And I was putting myself in that position. What if I had to do something right then, and I couldn't just bail? Because what I did was bail on everything, and that's tough. And it was moving reading that. And I have to say that of the people who I know who have your book, that picture of Greta Christina and her partner or wife, I guess they're married.
Right.
Is such a great picture. Just I don't know. Just,
it looks
emotes.
like true love.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the only way to describe it. I think.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite pictures from the whole
really
book. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think one of the surprises for me reading the book, and I haven't read the whole thing. What I've found that I like to do. First of all, it's a gorgeous book, and so I just leave it out because I like seeing it. But I'll have a moment, and I'll just flip open to a random page and read something, and then I'll put it down again, and I just come back to it. Amanda and I think, both agreed. Reb might have slept through it.
I had an off day where I just slept. Like they came into my house while I was asleep, so it was a very weird situation.
It was really creepy. But we both agreed that Alex Honnold in the movie was like our favorite guy. that guy was so
just like whatever
in the moment.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to have many cares in the world. What is it like talking to him?
Alex is a fantastic person.
Yeah.
I'm huge. I like Alex quite a bit. He's great. He's incredibly down to earth and funny and smart. I mean, brilliant. Such a brilliant guy and talented. I mean, the what he's able to do physically as a rock climber is just amazing. And kudos to him for being able to do everything he does.
Right.
But he has that ability of that combination, I should say, of being just physically incredible with his sportsmanship and his athletic ability, but also he is a brilliant person with sense of humor and also conscious, being conscious of issues in the world and wanting to make the world a better place. And I think it's really great. So.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's very interesting to mainly see, your big atheist that just pick up books, and then that guy who like picks up his whole body and climbs up mountains and still has just as meaningful of a message to deliver.
Right, and he's also one of the reasons I love having him in the film is that he is very different from the typical, atheist person that you'd hear, like a Dawkins or a Dennett. I mean, those voices are important too, but also having someone like Alex that I think many people can relate to in a way they can't relate to a Dennett or a Dawkins.
Sure. So at one point in the movie, you were up on a mountain, seemingly, with him. How hard was it to get up there?
Or did he just put you on his back?
Right. He climbed up the sheer cliff wall.
That was an incredible place, actually. That's in Yosemite, in California, and it's so gorgeous. And it was a place that we didn't know about. I was there with a friend of mine, and we had never heard of it. And he said, "Oh, we should go to this place that I heard that I've been to once before. It'll look really cool." And we went there. It was about a mile hike out, and it was absolutely incredible. And that cliff there, I mean, that's thousands of feet down there. So
and he's standing right there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, forget that.
I mean, if you're gonna do it with anybody, you might as well do it with Alex.
I guess
you went to the crater recently or whatever, and you were like,
no, that was Meteor Crater.
No,
the Grand Canyon is where I was like, nope. People are going out to the edge. I'm like, nope.
Hell yeah.
I'm sitting right here. I can see how beautiful it is right here. But that's what he may be brilliant, but he's an idiot. So that makes me want to ask another question, but I did just want to note that what he wrote in the book, which I did not read until after I saw the movie, was beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And it was not what I expected to come out of him after, because I mean, we were like, Amanda and I were laughing out loud. I mean, the movie is deep and meaningful, and there are places where I smile and places where I'm just, deep in thought. But I mean, he just kind of broke it up and and I did not expect such beautiful writing from him. I guess
That's the thing about him. I think it's very surprising to people if they see him in the film and then they read his piece in the book, how beautiful of a writer he is.
Yeah.
Just absolutely gorgeous writing. Yeah.
So some of the shots during the film, including that one, are absolutely gorgeous. The opening shot with the yellow fields it all looks fake. And so the first thing we wanted to know is, how much was your CGI budget? Because there's no way those things are real places, right?
They are all real places. There is no CGI.
How did you find these places? I mean, that had to. Did you get recommendations like you did for the atheists to talk to, or
no? I mean, they're just places that I loved, places that I found, and just were gorgeous.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was I mistaken, or did you film at McKinney Falls in Austin?
No. Was it McKinney or Hamilton? I don't remember.
Okay.
I feel bad. All the Austin people, I apologize for not remembering.
It did look like the rock cave at McKinney Falls at one point, and I was like, "Hey, I know that."
Yeah, she was sitting there. She's like, "That looks so much like McKinney Falls in Austin. I think it's in."
It was in Austin.
Tracy Harris comes out, and I was like, "Well, it is in Austin. There you go."
Yeah. I'll have to ask Tracy what it was. Okay. I forget the name. I feel bad. Apologies to everyone in Austin.
Hear that, Austin? You suck.
You're not memorable. It's all about Corpus Christi.
I will say one thing about the CGI stuff. There is no CGI, but one thing, here's a little insider filmmaker tip that people don't think about. And that's something called color grading, which is, for people who don't know, it's, the adjustment of color after, once you're all done with the film. A colorist goes through with you and adjusts all the colors to make sure that everything looks good. And
like an Instagram filter.
He has a degree, damn it.
And it's really they can do some incredible work.
Yeah, my iPhone does that.
Yeah, you're right. but that's the only work that's been done, and visually was some color grading.
Okay.
Which really does, if you look at before and afters, it can really improve the quality of the image. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, there's some stunning imagery in this, and it contributes so much to the whole feel of the movie. You visited so many places, and I started to get the impression that this entire project is a way for you to get world travel tax deductible. Is there any truth to that rumor that I just started?
It's definitely not tax deductible.
No?
It's airline miles. Yeah, sure. But a lot of different places. And one of the things I really want to do with the book and with the film is create something that is beautiful to watch, that is visually appealing, because I think that is something that we as a community need to work on a bit,
Yeah, you see a lot of the videos, just some dude plop down on a couch. It's like, you have really great stuff to say, but...
Right, or a lot of our, if you look at logos, or if you look at things, it's like dark and gloomy and a lot of red A's all over the place, and... I bet you have it too.
We have a blue A with a swirl.
A blue A, okay.
Yeah, I think it's
but
cool.
you see,
it's only a part of it, but it's a wave.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that. It's very wavy.
Yeah.
But in general, there is a lot of kind of dark, gloomy people associating us with, the devil, and
because it's badass.
I know. But you see a lot of that, and I think that's one of the reasons why people don't necessarily want to kind of look further into it, because this is dark, this is scary. And one of the things I wanted to do was say, look how beautiful the world is. Yeah. Look how amazing these places are, with gorgeous, sunsets and birds and flowers and all this stuff, as opposed to, here's a dark, little thing. It's a lot more beautiful than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I travel a lot, and I've gone to Paris and London and the big cathedrals, and they're beautiful, and I think a lot of people think that you need to have that faith in God to be able to see the beauty in the architecture and the stained glass and the sun coming through, and it's really just as beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
If you just see it for what it is, people
Yeah,
1,000 years ago did this, and it was amazing. It can still be beautiful, and you don't have to be like, God made these people do this.
Right. Or you don't have to reject it just because it's a religious symbol or part of a religious ideology.
Right.
Yeah. And we don't really do that anymore. I think as we were driving up to Reb's house, we drove past the mega church, and I think your comment was, "Wow, that's a really ugly building."
Yeah.
Just to be fair, it is a really
yes, no, it is.
True.
Yeah, I mean they tried really hard.
Although the inside of it's very nice. Like
it?
they have very nice floor. You go into their church. I mean, it's all futuristic. Like you're inside of a space machine. Or whatever. And when they're playing them, it's actually very nice on the inside.
When the Comet Hail Bop comes back around, they're going to beam straight up. Yeah. Kill Humanati in the chat room said that he appreciates you making a movie of the book because he doesn't read things. So I will just note that if you're just into pictures, the non-moving kind.
It is mostly a coffee table photography book.
Yeah.
You don't have to read the stories if
right.
you don't want to.
There are more pictures than anything else. I think.
And it's funny you talk about how you read a little bit at a time. And, I mean that's what it's designed to do. You're not supposed to go through and read the whole thing in one go because I think it would get a bit overwhelming if you were to read the whole book in one go.
It's like the Playboy thing. It's like, oh, no, I read it for the articles. Yeah.
I don't think it's like that at all.
I don't know what you're doing with Playboys, but
you're thinking of a different book.
Interesting.
That'll be the next one.
Right. Ooh,
I look forward to that one as well.
The Atheist Pinup Calendar coming soon.
I'm looking forward to the movie myself.
It starts out with a pizza delivery guy.
Very classic.
But it'll look nice, though. It'll look amazing with color gradations.
After the Instagram filter, it'll be amazing. How many countries did you visit total? How many places did you go over the course? I mean, can you even make a guess as to that?
10
different countries?
I mean, something like that. It's
okay.
It's been a lot. I mean, especially combined with the screening tour after. I'm going all over the place. And to get reaction, internationally from different places around the world is pretty incredible.
So you've screened it in a few different places. What has been? Is there a certain reaction that it's getting? Is there what has been the response that you've been getting so far?
The response has been really great. I mean, it's kind of like we talked about the book. People are really excited to see something different, see something beautiful, a positive message instead of just talking about what we don't believe in. Which I should say, I think is important. I do think that the work of the New Atheists, the work of people saying this is wrong, this is terrible, is completely justified, and I support it, and I think it's good. I think in addition to that, this kind of thing is also needed. But the reaction has been really fantastic universally, which has been good.
Yeah, I like I said, I think you found a niche that definitely there is needed in our community, and
I hope there's a whole bunch of copycats that come after you that
Yeah,
also
that'd be great.
make other things that also explore other areas of happiness and joy.
Right.
I think that can only do good for atheists
Yeah.
overall.
Right. Yeah, we need more of it. We really do.
Yeah, and I think I was talking to you earlier about how we go out and Corpus Christi Atheists, we table at this art walk, and we've been handing out as we get two different kinds of Christians who come up and talk to us. There's the really angry kind who want to yell at us and want us to yell back at them, and we kind of do our Socratic method thing on them by and large, and then there are the Christians who are just confused and they don't know who we are or why or what does that even mean you're an atheist, and literally they will say your life must not have any meaning, what do you care? And we've just been like throwing a better life an exploration of joy and meaning in a world without God in their hands and saying, come to this. It's at a church, so you'll be very at home, be lots of believers there, and this will explain it to you. And so I even think it's a good thing to present to believers. Prior to this movie coming out, my go-to has always been Julia Sweeney's
Letting Go of God.
Letting Go of God. And that to me, it's what I gave my mom when she really freaked out. Because I stopped believing when I was a teenager, but I wasn't really an activist, or I just didn't care for a long time. And when I started caring, then she started really getting freaked out. I mean, she freaked out at the time, but she did really start freaking out and didn't understand it. I think this is even a better one because it's such an uplifting message, I guess.
I love Julie Sweeney's Letting Go of God. I think it's just incredible. I mean, it was something that really inspired me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Of everyone in the movie, I think that's the one I'm really jealous that you get to sit down and talk to her. Her and Cara Santa Maria. Those two are people I would just like to talk to for a little bit, and that would be awesome.
Again, it was very lucky to be able to get people. I mean, and I didn't know anybody before I started this. I wasn't involved in the atheist community.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anyone really. I'd read some books and listened to some podcasts, but I didn't know anyone. And so just to cold email people and say, hey, I'm doing this project. Would you want to be involved? Even though you have no idea who I am. And people saying, yes, that's amazing. Brilliant. Let me, here's my schedule. Is pretty great.
So that's how you generated interest. This was originally a Kickstarter, well, actually 2 Kickstarters, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One for the book, one for the film.
Right.
And that's for the original book Kickstarter. That's what you were doing, is just cold emailing people and saying, hey.
Yeah. And it turned out, the first Kickstarter was the second highest grossing publishing project at the time Kickstarter had ever done.
Wow, that's impressive. Obviously, atheists are hungry for this kind of.
It turned out better than the IUA, that's for sure.
The what?
So they made like a little open source console that ran on Android. It was.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It was one of the highest grossing video game entertainment Kickstarters and it was a piece of crap.
Oh wow!
I'm getting all
okay,
nerdy,
nerd.
super
Okay,
nerdy on you. So.
Okay, nerd. We're gonna give him a swirly after the show.
Speaking of punishing people for their misdeeds, are we going to talk about how Ferris totally screwed our poor guest?
We are. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get there.
I just figured we were on the subject of punishing people.
Oh dear. I have asked for forgiveness from my higher power, and and I have decided that yes, I am forgiven. Went into my tent, came out. Yes, God said it's good. We'll talk about that in just a second.
He'll keep pushing it off.
Yeah. Just a few more minutes, guys. Just like those.
Oh no, we're out of time.
Maybe next show. This had to be a personal journey for you, and I was also wondering, is there anything that you think you learned about all of this from talking to so many people in so many places all over the planet?
Yeah, I touched on this actually this morning in my sermon, air quotes. That one of the things, and Julie Sweeney actually talks about this in the film, is really looking back at your life and looking at the moments that make you the happiest. What are those moments? What are those, and very specific moments? That party that one night, or I finished that one thing, or that one day when I went out and did this, and that really made me think, because me, and I'm sure everybody else is similar. You're always kind of thinking ahead. What's next? Where do I go? What am I doing? And you don't really kind of enjoy the moments as they happen. So one thing I do now is I'm really more focused on, when I'm in a moment of, wow, this is really cool, taking a step back and kind of relishing that and appreciating that in the moment, thinking, okay, this is an amazing moment right now that I'm in. This is incredible. And I think it makes you enjoy it a bit more. And it makes you remember it too. Because if you remember yourself taking that time in the moment, you can look back on it and think, oh, right, that was, I did that consciously at that time. So that's one thing I've learned.
That really struck me, because during your sermon, Reverend Johnson, you did an exercise with the audience where you had everyone close their eyes and just start thinking about those moments, those greatest moments in your life. And I am slipping slowly into senility, but my first reaction was panic, because I was like, I know I've had all these amazing moments, and how many of them have they're gone. I don't even remember them now because I'm old. And but then, once I really started thinking about it, and I just focused on, okay, what were moments with my wife? What were moments with my daughter, with my son, with my family, with my friends? What have I accomplished? What were great moments? And, it made me smile just sitting there. I was like, oh, this feels good. But that's what that's what I took out of that, is like, wow, there are so many things that I just didn't stop to appreciate. And I know they were awesome. And
right.
I didn't hold on to them.
And they're often little things, and she talks about this in the film, that, not like, I graduated from college, because, if you look back on it, I mean, at least for me, the moment you graduate college is not necessarily
It's an
one
after
of those
party
moments.
after graduation,
Yeah.
It's very small moments. I think it's small moments. It's little things here and there. It's not like some giant, amazing life thing necessarily. I mean, it could be, but I think for many people, we forget about the small moments rather than the big ones.
Hiding at Work in the chat room asks, and it's a little to it, but did anything about your perspective on atheism change as you were doing the book?
That's a good question. I think before I did the book, I was probably a bit more dismissive of religious people, and I would probably have said things like, "Oh, they're just stupid," or things like that. I think we've all gone through phases like that. And I think having done this, I'm probably a little bit more tolerant, for lack of a better term, probably about that, or I guess understanding, I should say. I think I understand the need and desire that people have to be religious in a way. I mean, I can understand that.
So pictures of you appear in the book, but you don't have a piece in there yourself. As an atheist, can you give us an example of what gives you the most joy and meaning in your life?
Doing this project has given me a huge amount of joy and meaning in my life. Finding that thing. I mean, I was just, a freelance photographer. I was just doing, work here and there. And to find a project that really was personal and resonated with other people and resonated with the community and brought me into a community that I didn't really, that I wasn't a part of before, that's pretty incredible for me. That's been the huge thing for me is just doing this and, seeing people latch on to this film. I was just in Peru. I did a screening in Lima, Peru, one of the most religious countries in the world, like 97% Catholic, I think. And people, came 8 hours on a bus, in which if you've ever taken a bus in Peru, it's not,
you're hanging on the roof, right? You're on the roof and there's like,
I've ridden a bus in Ecuador and it's scary.
It's very similar.
It's like this driving would never occur in America, or everyone would be getting tickets and being pulled over.
It's some of the worst driving in the world. But my apologies to the people of Peru. Peru is a wonderful country. You should all go visit.
Don't take the bus.
Just don't take the bus. But really, like people came hours and hours to see this film because they really wanted to see it, because it was different, because it was new, because it really resonated with them. And to get that, have people take such huge lengths to see it, to see something that I've worked on, I mean, really means a lot to me.
Yeah. And there was a couple this morning who came up to me afterwards, and they were from out of town, and they said, there's no way we're going to be able to join your organization because we're just here for a couple of days. They're leaving today, but they said, we heard he's in town, and we're like, okay, we'll go to church. So, I mean, I don't know whether going to that church service or riding a bus for 8 hours in Peru is more grueling, but that's amazing that it connects with people that much. That's got to make you feel good. I can imagine that would bring a lot of joy.
It does, yeah.
Have you produced any other films or books, or do you have any future projects that you're thinking about or starting on?
I don't know. I mean, for the moment, I'm doing a screening tour. So if people go to theatheistbook.com, they can see all the different places that the film is going, all throughout Texas, the Northwest. The film's going to China at the end of July. The Northeast, all different places.
It was interesting. You had like 20 different places, and like 5 of them were Texas. It's like,
I know.
wow.
Well, people in Texas really wanted it, so it was good. I'm adding more cities now too, so hopefully more places around the country will be interested, around the world even. Somebody brought up the possibility of going to the Middle East at one point, and I don't know. We'll
Brave
see.
man if you go.
Well, yeah. Somebody mentioned that at the Houston screening, and my mom was in the room, and I said, I'm not going to talk about going to the Middle East with my mother here. We'll see where it takes me.
There aren't some countries who are considered terrorists. If
yeah.
yeah.
There are places that want to do screenings, but we just can't organize it. So.
Maybe do like a virtual screening. Then there's like some, like Ustream, and stream it, and everyone go into a chat room using poor servers and encrypting everything. That would be amazing.
Yeah. But it's also amazing to know where the books have gone. There are books in Sudan. There are books in Saudi Arabia. There are books, all over any country you can imagine, there's probably a book. I've shipped out labels to all over the world. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that reminds me of the atheist census that they did online. I think it was last year, and it was really weird because at the very beginning when I had logged on, it was like half of the people who had taken the census were from Iran.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There was like a huge underground atheist community.
It's like all
Iran,
the Ayatollahs, like, let's mess up their data. That's what that was. So, have you any thoughts about what you might want to do in the future? Or are you really just focused on the film tour right now?
Right now, I'm focused on the film tour.
Okay.
In terms of what comes next, I don't know yet. But whatever I do, I want it to be as meaningful as this. And if it's something related to atheism, if there's something that people say, oh, we really could use more of this, then I'd love to do something else.
Right. If there are people out there who are saying, hey, I would like to see Chris Johnson in my town and see the film, what's the best way for them to request your presence?
Ooh, Ouija
Can
board.
they? Yeah, can they summon you somehow? Chris Johnson, Chris Johnson, Chris Johnson.
Yeah, just repeat it into a mirror
Right.
5 times. If you go to my website, theatheistbook.com, they can message me there. My email is chris@theatheistbook.com if anybody wants to email me. I'm going around adding cities to the tour, so if people are interested in having the film and me come to their city, then we can definitely set that up. I'd love to.
Great. Corpus Christi Atheist meets every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. This weekend we'll be meeting at B&J's. Actually, this weekend. Today. Special Sunday edition. We're going to be meeting at B&J's Pizza. So you're in the chat room and you're in Corpus Christi. You can come out and meet us at 5:30 p.m. If you don't know where that is or you'd like to visit some of our upcoming meetups or events, you can go to ccatheist.com for a complete list. And if you're interested in connecting with one of our affiliates, either in Corpus Christi or all the way down south to the border on Mexico in Brownsville, you can go to southtexascor.com to connect with our sister organizations. So before we move on to a little bit of news, we don't have too much time for too much. I wanted to remind everyone of some upcoming events. First of all, tomorrow we have this guy, Chris Johnson. He's going to be screening his film, A Better Life, an exploration of joy and meaning in a world without God. That will be at the Unitarian Church on Holly. I'm hoping we're going to have a pretty full crowd for that, actually. So make sure you get there early. That's at 6:30 p.m. I wanted to announce that we have finally gotten official adoption of Oak Park on the north side. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Took forever, but we got it.
Literally, like every 2 weeks, I'm like, are they still not talking to you? Because they hear, Corpus Christi Atheists want to do what?
Yeah, that was your first mistake. I didn't tell them about the bus benches until I had to actually give them the sign.
To be fair, I think it was just a combination of ineptitude and busyness, because the guy never seemed to actually at the safety briefing we had this week, he was like, yeah, you can put up a sign, it's $127, and I would just think that maybe somebody like a religious group or somebody would probably
graffiti it or tear it down.
Yeah, and we're like, oh yeah, we know. Yeah,
It's like,
you're not
do you guys
telling
have
us.
some sort of insurance we can get for that?
Yeah, we were like, yeah, we know that, but he did not seem to bear any animosity towards us. So.
Good. Yeah, I figure it's going to go up and it's going to be either down or graffiti pretty close. But I mean, it's worth it just for. I mean, I'll get some news coverage for that, and hey, maybe you could stop hating on atheists in this town.
Yeah.
So we're going to have our first cleanup probably on the 21st of June, which is a week from today. So ccatheist.com for those details. That'll be before our meetup at Big Sam's, which is another thing. We've expanded our meetups. We're going to be meeting on the north side at Big Sam's, Executive Surf Club, then out on the island, and then back down to B&J. So we'll have every week a different place in a different part of town. So if you haven't been coming because you're kind of out of the way, hopefully we're closer to you now. I think that's about it. So I guess now we can talk about what I did to Chris Johnson.
Yeah.
How terrible you are.
If you do bring Chris Johnson to your town,
right.
Please put a little bit more thought and effort into caring about his safety.
Maybe check TripAdvisor before you choose a hotel. I'm just going to put that out
Do you know what's funny,
there.
though, is I checked TripAdvisor, like when I first got the email. and I was thinking, oh, I don't know. But I don't want to complain. I don't want to be that guy. I'm sure it's fine.
You're going to be the guy who's going to complain at 2 a.m. And then, like, so I get the first email. From Chris. I'm like, oh, no. I saw you post on Facebook something, I forget.
They didn't have shampoo. Or
Yeah. So
you need to pay for extra.
I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? This is the ridiculous. And then I get an email at like 1:30 in the morning or something, and I was like, holy crap! It is so much worse than that. And I was already like so angry. Go ahead and tell people about your experience with this hotel in Corpus Christi.
Okay, so this hotel in Corpus Christi. So there's I was worried about it based on the TripAdvisor reviews. People talked about like drug use and sketchy neighborhood and all sorts of things.
I don't know TripAdvisor. Taylor at the thing today, he looked at it too, and the site I was on, it was like mostly 3.5 stars and a couple of 1, and they just said people were rude. That's the only thing I knew.
And I was like, okay, well, maybe, I don't know, the area, it's probably fine, it's okay. And I asked my friend Taylor, and I was like, is this a weird area? He was like, no, it's fine, And so I got to the hotel, and the front desk is just like, there's no front desk. There's like a window in the wall and like a grating over it.
Oh my God!
I didn't hear that part.
And so I had to like press a button on the grate, and this guy opens up the grating.
Shut up!
And no, it's true. And I'm like, I'm checking in, and so he's like, okay, so fill out this form, and it was like, we will do a background check on you to make sure you're not part of the National Sex Offender Registry. And if you are, you can't stay here. And I was thinking, and I've worked at hotels, I've stayed at hotels all over. I've never encountered this before. And I thought, what would make them start doing that? What makes them think, we really need to start checking people to make sure they're not a registered sex offender?
I'll bet you if we do a Google search for the name of the hotel and sexual assault, I'll bet you something in the news will come up.
And the other thing, and this thing you have to sign, right? It says that they can come into your room at any time to do a random inspection. Which again, I've worked at hotels. I've stayed at many hotels around the world. Never encountered this ever. And they give you this huge, this tiny print of all these rules. Again, never seen that. And on the back is an inventory of everything in the room with a cost associated with it, where, if you damage it, you have to pay us this much. Which, I guess is something that all hotels kind of have. But you would never, the fact that they're giving that to you right off the bat, that's really sketchy.
Yeah.
And so I went up to the room, and I was like, and the room was okay. But it had this weird, I felt like I was in kind of, like a rehab facility. It had that rehab facility feel to it. Not that I've been in a rehab facility, but
it's what you would imagine.
It reminded me.
Right. Back in the day, and then finally, like, I realized, like, and they say, like, you get 1 roll of toilet paper. And it was like, really? Like, really? And then I realized, like, there's no soap or shampoo. None.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
And I was like, oh, come on.
You can call me a sex offender. You can stay behind your protective grating, but no soap. Come on.
And the front desk in air quotes, the front grating closes. It's not 24 hours. And so there's like nobody, to call. There is an emergency line.
Yeah, like for
and
the
they
police.
charge you $10 if you call for a non-emergency reason.
What?
Yeah, I know. And I'm thinking, where the hell am I? And considering I was just, I was in like South America. I was, in, and I was like, that hotel was great. Like, and I'm in like Corpus Christi. Like, what is this? Where did he put me?
Right.
Yeah, Christian really did his due diligence.
Totally.
I read the reviews. I drive by this place every day. So not
to be fair to Christian, from the outside, it doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, it looks fun. It actually looks new, and at least from the highway, I've never gotten that. I will never get that close to that place.
Let's all go there after this. We still have the room. Let's go.
Let's document this whole thing
live from the room. Yeah.
And see, it'll be like it'll be a Survivor thing. How many of us make it out? So Chris starts emailing me at 1:30, and thank God I was still awake at the time, and we happened to have some people who were going by who were able to come free him from the rehab facility.
Well, I did feel bad because I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to complain. It was just, when I discovered the no soap thing, I'm like, I have to go do this thing in the morning.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to go all smelly and gross. Like, what? That is just not acceptable.
You didn't bring your own?
I know. Next time.
No kidding, because after I got your original email, I started texting other people I just copied what you described, and I'm posting to people like, can you freaking believe this? And I forget who it was, but someone was like, oh yeah, I always bring my own soap. And I was like, where are you staying? What kind of hotels are you staying in?
Well, my friend Taylor this morning brought soap stuff with him because he didn't know. It's like, did you need some? I'm like, no, it's fine.
Yeah. And then I wake up to a message, like, 'cause he sends out a message at like 1:30, and then I wake up and it's like, please let him stay at your place. So I was like, did it all work out okay?
All's well that ends well.
I'm alive and out of rehab.
There you go. Lesson is don't let Ferris book your
The next time we'll
hotels.
put you in the Omni.
This podcast is brought to you by TripAdvisor.
That's right.
Yeah, we just totally made up that whole story. It was just part of our sponsorship with TripAdvisor.com. None of that really happened. Yeah, we still got time, right? Yeah. I'm like, what time did we actually start this whole thing? All right. So let's move on to some news, and feel free to just jump in, Chris, if you've got something you want to say, or sit over there and wonder what you've gotten yourself into.
I've already started that.
That started yesterday at the hotel.
Yes, early yesterday.
Yes.
We'll take pictures and post them later.
Oh, that'd be great. Especially, I want to see this item list that they have. I can't imagine.
Oh, I have it on my phone.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to see.
I'll send it to you.
All right, great. So our first story has to do with a blatant separation of church and state violation at a state university. But the best thing about this story that makes it not just another one of these things that we're talking about is that there are no atheists involved whatsoever. And I freaking love that. So the complainant who brought a federal lawsuit this week is Lydia Mendieta. She is a Catholic who is suing the Delaware State University because of the actions of another Christian who is a Pentecostal. So she went to Delaware State University on a full-ride scholarship and had a great first season. Second season, or no, I think she was a junior. So she
had played for one full season, no problems, everything was great.
Right. And so she's going into her junior year, and they switch coaches. And the new coach is a Pentecostal Christian, and she, first thing up, tells everyone, you are all on a one-year evaluation program, and I may let you go. You may lose your scholarships if you don't perform. Then she starts adding things to the official team schedule, which includes going to her church, her Pentecostal church, which if you have to go to a church, Pentecostal is not. I mean,
UU church was bad enough.
Exactly. I don't think I could survive the Pentecostal thing. Started doing.
God is angry at my microphone.
Mandatory prayers before all matches, Bible study classes. They were making all of these athletes, and this is a public university, making them go to.
They had to join like the Fellowship of Christian Athletes or whatever, so one of those different organizations.
Yeah, so I just want to pause, and can we all appreciate that this is a great moment for Christians to understand, because I feel like atheists get this, why are you always trying to mess with our stuff?
We're all believers here. Why can't you just get with the program?
Exactly. And the separation of church and state protects Christians as much as it protects atheists. And I think usually when we're talking about this sort of thing, we're talking about Muslims, and you wouldn't like it if a Muslim or a Satan worshiper came in, and they don't like it when the Satan worshipers come in. But
it sure is entertaining when they do.
So she went along with the program, Lydia. She went to church, she went to Bible study, she participated in the prayers, even though she was very uncomfortable.
And she was not only did she do that, she was also one of the top players on the team.
Right. She broke school and conference records during this season with this new coach. After the first semester, I guess, she decided, okay, I'm done with this Pentecostal thing. I'm done with all of it. And she sent
it violates her religious beliefs.
Right. So she wrote a letter to her coach, and that went over about as well as you'd think. I don't want to go to church anymore.
Or not your church.
Right. She's a Catholic. She's going to church, not that one. So their relationship changed. She was very hostile towards this young lady, and at the end of the season, kicked her off the team and revoked her scholarship.
Now, in the coach's defense, they were caught like 2 minutes after curfew at one point, but there were like 3 of them, and she was the only one who got kicked off the team.
Right. So she went through the process for appealing all of that stuff, and they said, no, sounds legit to us. We're okay. We're all okay here. How are you?
They were Han Solo.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah. So she's suing, and I think that's fantastic. I'm glad it's not an atheist for once.
And it gets right down to that point. The separation of church and state was there to protect, Catholics, Protestants, Lutherans, Baptists, all that, so that you're not forced to believe what someone else believes in the religious sphere. And I can only hope that this serves as a cornerstone for religious people to see the errors in their ways as they try to push.
I'm sure that's happening tomorrow.
To push for a more integrated government and church, but as we see with a lot of our presidential candidates, it's usually the cornerstone of their campaign is to integrate them.
That and child molesters.
That too. They all seem to be really cool at that.
Yeah.
They could be on the registry. They can't stay at that hotel.
That's right. Sorry, Huckabee, you're not staying at Crapless Hotel in Corpus Christi.
Here's the weird thing, though. It's like that hotel. Maybe it's set up to do child molesters a solid. It's like, oh no, we wouldn't. There's a better hotel down the road. Why don't you just go?
There you go.
Why did the child molesters get a better hotel than I did? They're staying at the Omni.
Right, exactly. Nice water view. Yeah,
that's right.
That's exactly right.
It soothes the children, the view of the water. You're welcome for that.
What did I get myself
into?
I know, right?
Do they have like you can only have the water on for 5 minutes, and we charge you for every minute after that?
Yes.
When I was in California a couple weeks ago,
no
I think
electricity after 11 p.m.
I already told this story, I think, on the air, but I felt really weird turning on the water or taking a shower. But then I also felt evil, so I turned it on higher. Ha 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 ha. I definitely, especially now that you've been mean to me, Amanda, definitely want to make sure we get to this next story, which I chose as a gift to you.
Thanks so much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Just don't put me up in a hotel anymore.
Right? No, do I have some? I'm going to make travel arrangements for you in Turkey.
Great.
Have you ever seen the inside of a Turkish prison?
Ever seen a grown man naked?
So this, I'm going to play an audio file. This is Orthodox Jewish Rabbi Daniel Lapin talking to 2 other dudes about how women feel and how their whole biology thing works.
Since they're all experts.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's required in the Torah, and I mean this is something I recommend literally for absolutely every married couple. It's a commandment only for Jews, but that is that marital intimacy is suspended once a month for a period of time. And I mean, obviously, it's difficult, particularly for guys, obviously. But to be forced to interact with your wife non-physically for a week is really very valuable. To be in a situation where not every issue can be resolved with an arm around the shoulder and a kiss, but it needs to be resolved with words and communication is enormously valuable. And why is this there? Well, because anybody with any sensitivity recognizes that the good Lord created men with an infinite capacity to produce seed, at almost any age, whereas he chose to create women with an absolute finite, limited number of eggs. And so the loss of an egg every month for any sensitive woman is sad, because it's one less opportunity for life. And so foolish and insensitive people say, oh, it's just hormonal imbalance. It isn't. It's a genuine, authentic sadness which suffuses any sensitive woman at the loss of an egg. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's sad. And
wow,
so
I've never thought of it that way, that it is actually a God-given sadness.
Okay. So this is something I didn't catch before when I was listening to it earlier, but are you just not allowed to even touch your wife while she's on her period?
Well, she's unclean for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
But there's no, because he talks about you can't solve problems by putting an arm around her and kissing her, which is like a really crappy way of solving problems anyway.
Well, and that's what he's saying. It's like there are some problems you can't, there's not many problems I think you can really do that for.
But 75% of the time, that's what he's doing is, mwah, now run along.
It's cool, babe. Yeah.
But
I know like some foreign countries, girls are not allowed to attend school the week of their period.
Wow.
They have to go sit in a hut by themselves.
Well, because they're unclean, they have to have their own new bed. All the sheets have to be changed.
Yeah.
Not only that, same thing for childbirth. And if you give birth to a male, that unclean period is less than if you give birth to a female.
Of course.
It's
Yeah.
obviously, because fuck women.
Yeah.
So.
Dudes are better. They just are. Yeah. So.
One of the most annoying things about that clip is just the smugness.
Yeah.
The tone in which he talks about this like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
When any reasonable person knows he's just, full of shit.
Yeah. He's got this condescending tone of, here is the wisdom from the mountain. And it's complete nonsense. All of it. I mean, not even
nonsense.
Not even just the biblical stuff, but the biological stuff is nonsense.
Although taking time to get to know your wife and to talk to her, that could be positive, but I don't think that should be done.
If you're not doing that when she's not on her period, then you're a failure.
I mean, maybe set aside a couple days a week. Might as well do it when she's on her period. That could be, a positive thing for a marriage, potentially.
So a couple days a week while she's on her period.
Or a couple days a month. I don't know. I'm not a
do you
girl.
know how
I don't
periods
know these
work?
things.
That smug wisdom from the mountain tone you just had, Brad. I looked it up real quick, and I don't know. Hopefully, I just looked it up. So hopefully, this is a good source that I'm getting this from. But this source is saying that you cannot touch your wife during her menstrual cycle, even indirectly using an intermediate object. So also you have to stop beating her at this point too, is what I get out of that.
I think it was more like I think they're more referring to like sexual toys. I think maybe you can even with
maybe that is what that is about.
Or it could just be because that's where I was going to.
Right, you're like sex.
My top 10 happiest moments were
sex. Yeah.
Another rule is husband and wife cannot handle an object at the same time. So you can't lift something.
No making a bed.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
You can't move the furniture around.
That's right.
That's weird.
We were going to move the furniture this week, Lucille.
Well, I guess she can't cook for him either. So I guess during that time he's responsible for all the household work, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yes, that's
obviously
totally how it
that's
works.
The logical conclusion.
I am absolutely certain.
Is there anything she can do during this time?
Well, here's the good thing: is one of the things is that she's not allowed to serve food to her husband during this time, so she gets a break from her
life of slavery.
Right.
There you go. When 1 week at a time. Oh my gosh.
There's just these 3 weeks of just horrible, just treating me like crap. But then I get 1 week where I just get to go to my own little hut and just spend time to myself.
Just get to stay out in my she shed and just
she shed.
Play some music.
Oh, that's really awful.
My favorite take on the period, though, which is kind of similar to this but amusing, is imagine your uterus once a month, and it just puts all these pillows in a room, and it makes it all nice, right? And it's hey, I'm ready for the baby, and you're like, yeah, there's not gonna be a baby, and it just like goes nuts and just like throws shit everywhere. Like, no baby. That is my preferred.
Wow. There's a lot of nonsense that goes on in your body.
Hiding at work in the chat room agrees with me. She would love for this to be implemented in America so that she can just take a week off work.
I don't think she says that.
She wants to sit in the hut alone and miss work for a week. She obviously agrees with me.
That's like I like. Do y'all watch Agent Carter?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did like that when she like needed to get her way. She was just like, yeah, I'm not feeling well, you know, lady things, and they're all like, leave! Oh my God, why would you even?
Why would you say that in a public place?
Yeah, pretty much.
We are in the 70s.
I have no idea what you're talking about. The last really weird rule I wanted, there's a whole long list of them. The other one that's really weird is husband and wife cannot sit together on an object that moves.
Like a Sibian?
Okay, Rep.
No porch swings.
No porch swings, right.
No bicycles.
No hammock.
Oh,
No
bicycles.
hammock.
No hammock.
Yeah.
Those little horses that you do, this thing, the rocking horse things. Yeah.
So cars are out too, right?
That's what I was thinking.
Right out.
But probably just bench seats. So if you have bucket seats, you're probably
Here
good.
you go.
But
It
who
doesn't count.
who reads rules like this and say, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that.
Totally.
Ultra Orthodox Jews.
That's even.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think basically like some dude got bled on while riding a donkey with his wife. And
He's like, that's gross.
Yeah, he's like, ew, rule, quit.
Someone write a plot before this.
Hey, I went to my tent and God said, women who are menstruating can't ride on donkeys with me anymore. Sorry.
The other thing is I went and this story made me do math because he's talking about how men, create all this seed, and Lord knows that's true. But we took, speaking of shitty hotels, we were in Dallas and we took a black light and oh God. Okay. Men produce a lot of seed. I'm glad you didn't have a black light at this place.
He's like, well, now that's all I can think about. Thank you.
We're going back.
We're going back with our CSI kit. Yeah, this is happening. So women have finite amount of eggs, but it's a lot. It's a lot of eggs. And I did the math. Over the course of an average woman's life, they actually ovulate 0.13% of the total finite eggs they have. So, I mean, that whole point is completely moot anyway.
Well,
it's not like you've got 5 and you're like, oh no, one of my 5 children.
Then where does menopause come in then?
Oh, well, you don't, people die with eggs. They
Right,
stop being released, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. See, this is how you do these things. It's like you actually have a woman in the room when you're making these conversations. You can say,
that's why I'm asking. The menopause, I'm sure, affects something.
no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about them. Like 3 dudes in a room saying, oh yeah, they're just like totally upset because, it's another kid. They just flushed another kid down the toilet.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm heartbroken.
Last story I want to hit before we get the heck out of here.
Miley Cyrus?
Miley Cyrus.
Please be Miley.
Because
Miley
honestly,
Cyrus.
I can't believe this is a thing that's about to happen. I can't believe we're going to talk about Miley Cyrus. But that's a thing that happened this week. I don't know a thing about her music other than Reb's a big fan.
There are a few songs that come around every once in a
wow.
while. I'm like, hey, that's a good song.
I was really hoping for oh, you jerk. But
No. Like
apparently
like I'm not like into like her entire discography or anything. But there are a couple songs she comes out with every once in a while. I was like, hey, that's pretty catchy. I like that song.
Yeah, my daughter was into Hannah Montana. That's about all I know. So this week, Miley was interviewed by the magazine Paper, which I'd never heard about, and she also appeared nude on the cover wearing only a pig, like a live pig.
Well, that magazine's also responsible for the nude Kim Kardashian picture as well, the break the internet picture.
Oh, okay.
Also, I just want to ask: do the 3 Jewish men in the room, do they have anything to say about that?
As long as she's not on her period, it's good. It's all right.
Someone check. Yeah, she's muddy anyway, so she's already unclean, so she can touch the pig. I don't know. By transitive prop, no. Okay. The article, though, I mean, okay, her appearing, people get up all in Miley's business because they think she's dancing wrong or she's not wearing enough clothes.
She's appropriating black culture with twerking or whatever.
I haven't heard that particular one, but yes, things like that. this article sparked a lot of rage because of a lot of things she said. So first she talked about fundamentalists who believe the literal story of Noah's Ark. And she said about that, quote, "That's fucking insane." And she goes on to say, we've outgrown that fairy tale like we've outgrown fucking Santa and the Tooth Fairy. So I think you were talking about a little bit, we all go through that phase where we're a little more, she's in that, she's like 23.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, she is hip deep in that phase. But it's nice to see a pop star coming out and saying something that blunt. Yeah.
It was not the pop star I was thinking that was going to be the icon of atheism and the pop culture. I was not expecting that.
So more seriously, she said that she maintains a particular contempt for fundamentalist lawmakers who rally against this sort of progressive, potentially life-saving changes for the LGBT community. And that, quote, "those people shouldn't get to make our laws." Yes. So, she also, yeah, and she said some nice things about her parents, but she also said that their conservative aspect, quote, politics is something that she detests. Out of curiosity, because my parents and I, my parents are both Republicans. My mom she loves Glenn Beck. She's a hardcore teabagger. And you guys, you're
Maybe don't say that about your mom.
I walked into the room as a child. No, I'm just kidding.
And there she was, just sipping on her tea.
That's what it means, right?
Dipping it in, yeah. Do you agree with your parents politically or no?
My mom's Republican until I talked to her about the facts of an issue, and then she's like, I'll have to think about that. And it's like, thank you for placating me.
Right.
But yeah, no, I don't really agree with
my
it too
mom's
much.
an old hippie, so yeah, she's pretty liberal. My grandmother is very Republican, especially in her old age.
Yeah.
And she trots out all these like family farms are closing down because of the estate tax. That's why we have to stop that. And I'm like, well, no.
All those billion-dollar families.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm like, there are a couple points where you're wrong, but she's like, no, I heard it on Fox News. This is totally right. And I'm like, all right, you're 90, whatever.
How about you, Chris?
Both my parents are very liberal.
Oh, okay.
My grandparents were Republicans, but I think Republicans in
It's
a different
changed a
era,
lot.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they would have, well, depending on the issue, I think they would have been more liberal.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Republicans of 50 years ago are way different than the Republicans of today.
Very much.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, my dad used to be, he doesn't call himself a Republican anymore because of that. He used to be one, and then he felt like they just went off on this wild, crazy thing. And he's like, this is where are you going?
Yeah.
I'm just going to stay here.
I think it was the 80s, when
Yeah.
things really, with Reagan and the moral majority and all that.
Reefer madness.
Yeah.
Reefer madness. That's what
That was the 30s.
Yeah, right.
Was that 30s?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, whatever. Well, no, he was really big anti-crime and everything, right? Like he.
Is someone pro-crime? How many presidents
Well,
do we have that
no,
are like,
but I mean,
hey,
he's the one that
crime?
started the war on crime.
The war on drugs.
War
you
on
mean?
drugs, yes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
that's my
yeah,
bad.
yeah. Just say no and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reb's big. He's a big stoner, and
I wish I could be one. But.
Meth is a hell of a drug. Also, she's recently come out as, I think, pansexual.
Yeah, gender fluid.
Gender fluid.
Yeah.
And
which is good for her.
She talked about coming out to her mom when she was 14. She said, quote, "I remember telling her I admire women in a different way. And she asked me what that meant. And I said, I love them. I love them like I love boys. And it was so hard for her to understand. She didn't want me to be judged, and she didn't want me to go to hell. But she believes in me more than she believes in any God. I just asked for her to accept me." And that sounds like a good mom to me.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, better than most, at the very least.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about stories like the Sikh who, you're not allowed to take off your turban. But there was a child who was bleeding out and took it off to use it as a tourniquet and a bandage or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for people who have firmly held religious beliefs, but when they come up against reality and someone in need, the people who do what's right instead of, well, I guess we just have to stone you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, my religion calls for me to throw you out of my house and disassociate, so
Right.
I'm sorry you're 12, but too bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would like to request that people lay off the poor girl. I think that she, and going back to something you said this morning at church, Chris.
It's the first time anybody's ever said that.
Right?
Yeah.
I like it. People spend so much energy on stuff that it affects them not at all.
Right.
And that's so true of the way, and like I said, I don't know anything about this woman's music or anything, but I hear so many people saying the most awful things about her because of some dance she does or because she frequently wears no clothes.
Made twerking a thing.
Yeah.
I don't think she made it a thing. I think it was
she's the one that
She
made
brought it to white people,
Okay.
basically.
That I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which made it a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like my aunt posted on Facebook the other day, and she was like, this poor little girl who's just so angry at God and just lashing out, and all God wants to do is love her. And I was like, I don't think you understand what she's saying at all.
I don't know. I can't see anything but positive stuff coming from her being as out and open as she is about it. I mean, that's good, especially from someone who has such a large public image, being, pro, a more secular message. Go for it.
Yeah, she started foundations to help LGBT homeless teens.
Mm-hmm.
She's done all kinds of things that don't get nearly as much play as when she, twerks or says something crazy.
Well, she twerked on that rapey guy, the
Alan Thicke's
Thick,
kid,
yeah.
Robin Thicke.
Robin Thicke, yeah.
There you go. I'm like, the dad from, what year is it?
I don't know what you crazy kids are talking about, but
Alan Thicke, he was the dad on Family Ties.
Okay, I'm old enough to remember that. Okay.
It was in your age.
Yeah. That's my people.
That was your age.
So the other thing I wanted to mention before we get out of here is that Ken Ham actually weighed in on this whole Miley Cyrus thing this week.
Because of course he did.
Because of course.
Because he was a big fan and he was very disappointed in her politics.
I don't know that I can listen to the music in the same way. When I'm out building my ark at the trees.
When we're bringing in our wrecking ball, I used to always think of Miley, and now I can't do it anymore.
And that's what he said.
When he comes along to party in the USA.
So one of the things that Miley said during this thing was that sexually she's down for anything, and that it doesn't matter whether you're a man, a woman, if you're, what your gender identity is, that if you're a beautiful person, she's into you and she's into just about anything as long as it's consensual and as long as you're all old enough to be consenting. Ken Ham took to the internet to say, to ask her a question, and he wanted to know why not involve an animal? On what basis does she decide that? Besides, if there's no God and she's just a result of evolution, then she is merely an animal anyway, and those she interacts with sexually are just animals, so why not any animals?
Because of consent.
Yeah. I don't know many
Animals
pigs,
that can
let's
talk.
say,
Yeah.
since she posed nude with one.
Although that pig
wouldn't
was
be
very
all right.
smiley. I mean, did you see the big smile on its
It was
face?
a very happy pig. Yeah. So it clearly
wanted it.
But yeah,
pigs can actually they have like hour-long orgasms or something, right?
I'm scared that you know
I
that.
know. What is-
Why?
I've heard that before too.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a myth. I just heard that. See, I'm not the only one who knows. Man, this guy right here.
Aren't you glad you had me on the show?
Well, but he has an excuse. He's doing that movie next with the pizza guy, and so it's all like background material for the next project.
I call it research.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do a lot of research on my laptop, which is why it's encrypted.
And you're not kidding.
I'm kidding a little. Sort of kidding. Anyway, all right. I think that's enough for today.
That's more than enough for today.
I think we've ruined Chris Johnson's reputation enough for one. There's probably still going to be a screening tomorrow night at the UU Church at 6:30, so you guys should come out for that. Anything you want to plug or send people to before we get out of here?
If people are interested in the book or the film, they can go to my website at theatheistbook.com. Also, right now, if people Oh no.
It's like
also,
the Oscars.
We're gonna play them right the hell out.
Wrap it up.
There's a live band here. If people buy the book through my website right now, for a limited time, they get the film for free. So
it's good
they can
deal.
check that out.
All right. Thank you for listening to Atheist Airwaves, sponsored by Corpus Christi Atheists and the South Texas Coalition of Reason. If you'd like to compliment, complain, or make a suggestion, please write to us at god@atheistairwaves.com. Thank you to Tombstone to Deadman for our outro music, which will actually play us out this time. We will see you guys next week, not this Tuesday, but a week from Tuesday at 7:30 Central. So make sure you come out and hang out in the chat room with us. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Being a skeptic means so much more than being an atheist. And until you accept that, you won't relate to this. That cognitive dissonance that you experience is when there's things you claim to believe in but ain't living it. Most of you say you are the type to question everything until I hear the conspiracy theories that you echoing. And when I scrutinize the things you try to say are lies, expose your sources as suspect, I see your logic dies. Some still believe in pseudosciences, engage in special pleading when theists use the exact same reasoning. I've even seen atheists use arguments from ignorance and seem more pressed to tell me exactly just what the difference is. A skeptic without the ability to analyze is just as bad as a theist, cause he'll probably accept a lie. Just as long as it verifies all his biases, applying it to his knowledge pool, and then he's diving in. So I'm not saying that some conspiracies do not exist. I'm just saying that a lot of them are some bullshit. So I'ma call a spade no matter who asserts that nobody's perfect, and just one lie, then it's all perverted. Bring down the curtains on that sad display. The only ways to question yourself and all the things you say. Start the day, and maybe we can rise above and be examples for others that emulate, and that's the way we win this battle. So this is where I'm making my stand, and now regardless who don't like it or how they get mad, see why the rest of y'all capitulate and go with the plan. I'll be beating on this wall until I'm breaking my hand. So listen while I state official policy. No matter how I'm threatened with hell, then never silence me. I know that you don't see this as imperative, but I refuse to lose and let the stupid frame the narrative.